a few weeks back when I first said, I created a video on AI taking over software jobs, and this was primarily being keeping in focus the NVIDIA CEO who made this announcement. And a lot of you said that he's saying because he's making money out of that, out of saying that, and so on. Right? Today on Product Hunt, a new product was launched called Devin, which is an AI software engineer that can do end-to-end building and deploying of the AI applications. If you go to Twitter and if you're in software, you will probably know this is all that people are talking about. This is the founder who built Devin, and without a question, this has gone viral. We will look at the demo video here and some of the use cases that are shared here. But let's take a look at the blog that was shared to understand exactly the kind of things it can do at this point of time and also watch some of the videos. Now, broadly, it can do everything that a software engineer would do, only that it works on compute and not food, which is what humans work on. Again, they are more complex than just food, but now imagine having a GPU instead of a human doing the software job. It can automatically learn new code, it can build and deploy code end to end, it can autonomously fix and find bugs in code bases, it can train its own AI model to ensure that it does not face similar problems in the future. It can contribute to open source repositories, it can contribute to mature production repositories, and it can even do real jobs. So they tried putting this on Upwork and also did a bunch of coding interviews with top AI companies, and it passed all of that. Let's take a look at the demo now. So this is the YouTube demo that was updated on their blog page, and it's also on Twitter. All right, let's look at it now.
Hey, I'm Scott from Cognition AI, and today I'm really excited to introduce you to Devin, the first AI software engineer. Let me show you an example of Devin in action. I'm going to ask Devin to benchmark the performance of Llama on a couple different API providers. From now on, Devin is in the driver's seat. First, Devin makes a step-by-step plan of how to tackle the problem. After that, it builds a whole project using all the same tools that a human software engineer would use. Devin has its own command line, its own code editor, and even its own browser. In this case, Devin
So I'm kind of curious to see how it got the API keys. Does it also go to these websites and create the API key, or is that something that a human would have to do? Because if it can go to websites and create API keys, then that's really the next level of what most AI agents are not able to do.
Devin decides to use the browser.
The best part still is that it's going inside of each of the documentation, finding the documentation, and then putting it all together here inside the code
to pull up API documentation so that it can read up and learn how to plug into each of these APIs. Here, Devin runs into an unexpected error. Devin actually decides to add a debugging print statement, reruns the code with the debugging print statement, and then uses the error in the logs to figure out how to fix it. Finally, Devin decides to build and deploy a website with full styling as the visualization. You can see the website here.
Interesting. So it can, now the only question that I have is that how did it get access to API keys? Did it, actually create an account and get the API keys, or that's something a human did? So if human did that, how did it deploy this app on Netlify in this scenario? Is that something a human would still do? Because in the end of the day, you would still need to give Devin, the right credentials in order to make this call. So you can see it was able to take the prompt and have a, chart here that benchmarks replicate together in Perplexity across these different parameters. So that's interesting, but then there are a lot of open questions with respect to some of the authentication that it's doing by itself. Where is it getting all of that data?
All of this is possible today because of the advancements that we've made in both reasoning and long-term planning. It's a really hard problem, and we've only just started, but we're super excited about the progress that we've made so far.
So you can see this is the SWE bench, which is effectively a model's ability to solve problems autonomously without support code. And you can see it solves 13.86% without any assistance. And the best state-of-the-art model, I think, is around 1.98 or so. With assistance, the best one is Claude 2, but it is only 4.80. And Devin without assistant does 13.86% on SWE benchmark.
In the meantime, if you'd like to try out Devin on your own real-world tasks, send us a request below, and we'd be happy to forward it to Devin.
So yeah, by the way, if you want to try it out, you can reach out to them here. I did reach out, and I'm interested to try it out. But let's take a look at some of the things that are also mentioned here. So Devin can learn new how to use unfamiliar technology. So let's take a look at this.
Hey everyone, my name is Sarah, and I'm going to show you how Devin, our AI software engineer, can autonomously learn from a blog post. Within a few minutes, Devin successfully generated this desktop background image for me with my name on it. So all I had to do was send this blog post in a message to Devin. From there, Devin actually does all the work for me, starting with reading this blog post and figuring out how to run the code. In a couple minutes, Devin's actually made a lot of progress. And if we jump to the middle here, you can see that Devin's been able to find and fix some edge cases and bugs that the blog post did not cover for me. And if we jump to the end, we can see that Devin sends me the final result, which I love. I also got 2 bonus images here and here. So let me know if you guys see anything hidden.
Okay, so she's basically taking a blog post that shows a process in order to how to generate your images with your names in it, and she basically feeds that to Devin, and Devin follows the instruction and does it, which is really cool. If you look at the workspace, by the way, on the right, which is now relatively more clear, so it has shell, browser, editor, and planner. So it's similar to AutoGPT that we tried, I think, almost a year back in April. AutoGPT went live. That had a similar process, but this seems way more organized that way. So interesting. It can take blog posts, and looking at the blog post, it can then generate, or it can actually go through the blog post and do those tasks for you. Let's try something else. Let's take a look at how it can build and deploy apps end to end. Let's try it now.
Hi, I'm Adyan, and today I felt like playing the game of life. So I asked Devin to implement it for me. Devin started by creating a new React application using the shell, and then it started writing some code through its edit. After that, it deployed the app through Net. Let's check it. That seems nice. But there's a lot more features which I want to add. So let's ask Devin to do this one at a time. I want the words Devin to be written at the initialization screen instead of it being run. Then I want the word to be slightly bigger and the frame rate to be. I also want him to fix a bug where the screen gets freezed after 3 seconds. Let's see the progress Devin has made so far. We can see the diff, and the last diff shows that Devin just fixed the bug where the screen is frozen after 3 seconds. Seems reasonable to me. So let's move on.
So again, what I'm understanding from this is that it can not only generate things, but it can do further, optimization or changes to the code as in how you need it to, right? And see, this is the final generation here.
That's fun.
Interesting. Let's take a look at this demo now. See, this is where AI can find and fix bug that the developer apparently wasn't able to catch.
Hey, I'm Andrew, an engineer at Cognition, and I wanted to share a pretty amazing experience I had with Devin. So I maintain this big
Is that because of the blue screen, or does he? Why are the eyes?
repository, which contains a lot of different algorithms used for competitive programming. A lot of people use it, and a few weeks ago, my friend texted me that there was actually a bug in one of the implementations. The implementation wasn't quite right when the inputs weren't relatively prime. I kind of glossed over that case when I was implementing it, so I never really thought of it. So I implemented a quick fix, and then I thought that I should test it, but I actually never really got around to writing any test cases. So I thought, if I don't want to do it, I should just ask Devin to do it instead. So I gave Devin the repository.
Again, note that the repository needs to be open source in order for Devin to access it. It won't access anything that has any sort of authentication.
Asked Devin to just check it out and start working on it. So Devin, found the right repository, checked it out.
Interesting, it cloned the repository, explored the directory structure of the repository, and then reviewed the specific file that had the bug.
Found all files that are in the repository. And then I told Devin what test case I wanted him to write. I just told Devin what exactly on those very effectively and just added an extra include to fix that. And then was done in a test. So then I asked Devin to actually expand the test a little bit instead of just kind of have to worry about it.
Sorry, not only can it fix bugs, but it can also, do things like testing out certain test cases for the model, which is interesting because there are jobs that do specifically that. So they create test cases and they test these out. Now, this is interesting because then AI can automatically do all of that for you, which is also scary, right? You can also see that it can automatically train the AI on its model. Like if it figures out certain bugs that were fixed, it can train the AI in order to ensure that it does not, have to or does not encounter this problem again in the future. Like we already saw, it addresses bugs and features in open source repositories. So basically, it can automatically contribute and solve problems in real time. Again, this is something that GitHub should have as a premium feature where it can automatically manage your own internal repositories, fix bugs, and so on. What I'm interested now in looking at is the real job section. So let's open this and see. Since it was able to do real Upwork jobs, I'm really interested to see which one did it actually solve. So make inferences with computer vision model. This is, I think, Upwork. And seems like a job that was intentionally posted because there's a guy who searched for road damage. Why would he specifically search for road damage? Maybe this is something that they already did before and then they were trying to find this job. Makes sense. So let's take a look at this.
Holden, one of the developers here at Cognition AI, we were playing around with whether or not Devin could start a side hustle on Upwork.
So here's actual real job from Upwork where the client wants to set up this computer vision model, which actually looks quite interesting. Seems very difficult to set up. I'm not sure how I would start doing this, but you give the task to Devin and ask Devin to figure it out, and things just kick off. Devin immediately goes ahead, and you can see it sort of starts setting up the repo. It actually runs into some issues here with the versioning. So if you watch how Devin deals with it, Devin's actually updating the code to make these things work. He continues with this, loading and importing packages. You can see that actually downloads images from the internet to run through the model. But you can see here that there are actually some issues that come across. However, Devin knows how to handle these things. Devin kind of pushes through. And if you look closely, Devin's actually doing print line debugging here, where Devin is adding these statements to track where the data flows. And Devin continues to do this until line statements. This TXT file.
Okay, so it has the potential to solve real job problems or real problems from Upwork. It hasn't automatically gone ahead and done it just yet. But I can imagine like there may be people who will now act as a front end or customer service people and then take jobs from Upwork and then use things like Devin in order to automate this. So anyways, they raised 21 million by Founders Fund, and they are giving out access to Devin to certain people who want to build it. So it's very interesting. I've applied because I find there could be a real use case of this with respect to what I am looking at. But overall, I think this is expected. This is just a starting point. Now, things like marketing, content creation can also be automated to a certain extent. And I think that's going to be the next step of evolution when it comes to this. But to be very, very honest, this is also very scary. And I hope there are certain ethical guardrails in place to ensure that the people who will be really impacted because of this have some sort of support where they can move to a more senior role or roles that AI cannot handle at this point of time. If you look at Twitter, you will find a bunch of people saying things like terrible decade to be a junior dev. And there's this guy who's uploaded the video of the founder of Devin, who seems to be in some sort of math competition. And then you can see almost everyone is kind of talking about it at this point of time. So that's going to be all for this one. I hope, even if you are in software right now, learn things beyond software, because this is expected. It's like software is someone who built the software is writing its own doom. So the people who are building Devin right now are in one way or the other writing code so that they don't have to write more and more of it in the future. So the more you become, customer facing and marketing oriented, at this point, better to do it now than later.